Today we're going to talk about the hydraulic brake booster, also known as HBB unit, which comes in various Toyota models, Lexus models, Mitsubishi Monteros. Most commonly it comes in the Toyota 4runner and the gx470, and that's what this is out of. This is out of a 2003 Toyota 4runner. What I've done is already removed it from the vehicle. It's pretty easy. It only took about 15 minutes. You lay down underneath the steering wheel and there's 4 gold nuts that hold this to the firewall. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there's a pin and a clip that hold this fork to the brake pedal. You unplug the 3 connectors going to the control module. There's another little plug back here that goes to the pressure sensor. And then the 4 brake lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it basically slides right out. It's very easy. So the reason why we're changing the electric motor is because of the notorious screeching problem that these vehicles have. One day you're going to get in the car, the brakes are going to be stiff, and after a few seconds of the engine running, you're going to hear the unit start screeching. It's very annoying. And the cure for this is to change the electric motor. And what I've been told is that the motors get burnt out to the point where they reverse polarity. And what you're actually hearing is the strain of the pump from turning backwards. We're gonna go ahead and swap it out. It's very easy. The instructions say to remove 5 bolts. 1, 2, there's a hidden bolt over here, that's 3, 4, and 5. But I've done this so many times that I've kind of learned a little bit of a shortcut. You don't really have to take all those bolts out. What I do is just remove these 2. And it basically just falls out of there. Sometimes it's stiff and you can take a screwdriver and basically there's like a little divot in the motor and you can wedge it in between the pump and the motor right here and pop it loose and it'll fall right out just like that. The next step is to basically pull it up slowly out of the peg that it sits on. You see that there's a peg and a grommet. And sometimes there's a tie strap that holds the wire harness over here. They're usually dry rotted. You could just take a screwdriver and pop them and they'll break. You roll this back and sometimes these screws get corroded and it's a little difficult, but in this case they're not. So we're gonna go ahead and crack them loose and remove them. The wires are color-coded, red and blue. The red wire always goes closest to this bolt that holds the body of the motor together. I don't really mark them because I already know where the wire goes. You probably should. And we're gonna go ahead and get the new motor. And the gasket's very easy. There's a D-shaped cut in the gasket, and there's a D-shaped cut in the motor. What I do is I take a little smidge of grease and I rub it around here. I put the gasket on to hold it in place. And the grease helps. The next thing you want to do is remove this little booger, which is the Lovejoy. The Lovejoy basically sits in between the pump and the electric motor, and you'll see that there's a cross cut out of it. And the reason for this is because the electric motor occupies one slit, and then the pump has the same shaft and it sits in the other slit crossed from it. What I do to make life easier is I put the motors side by side and I try to point the shaft in the same position as the one that I removed, and that way it makes life a lot easier when putting it back together. So this one's pointing into the middle of that divot. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this one to face the same direction. It doesn't have to be exact perfect, but as close to it as possible. Then what I do is the new motor comes with new screws, and if yours are corroded, you know, it's a good thing, so you don't have to go hunting for new screws. If mine aren't corroded, I reuse the originals because they seem to be a little bit longer, and I like the sense of security. So we're going to go ahead and lay the wires back down. Take one screw. Here's the other. Get it nice and tight. Put the rubber boot back on to protect it from the weather. If the screws are corroded, I put a little bit of grease on them because it depends on the driver's conditions, and if they're corroded, it's because the driver goes through a lot of puddles, and the grease kind of protects it from any further corrosion and future problems. The next thing you want to do is take the electric motor and sit the peg housing, I guess, onto the peg. And then what you want to do is hold the motor straight and bring the pump body down to it and kind of rotate the motor until it falls into the gap. And then you know you're aligned properly. You take the screw, find your hole, I like to always put the first screw down till it's just finger tight, and that way it holds the positioning. There's the other screw. Here's my other screw. What we're going to do is take the screwdriver here and get this snug. You don't have to get crazy and over tighten it. And basically what we have here is a unit that's ready to go back in the car. Like I said, this should cure the problems, and typically when I put them back in and I bleed them, all the lights go out on their own and we're good to go. You know, I've put these in the cars. They've been on the road for around 4 or 5 years and haven't had any comeback, so I'm pretty confident that this cures the problem. Thank you.